Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today, I thought I'd bring you a book haul of all things because I have honestly kind of acquired a lot of books since August, maybe September. And I don't know that I ever really talk about them on this channel. Normally I will post, if I pick something up at Barnes & Noble or if a publisher kindly sent me something on my Instagram stories. I don't often talk about it here unless I'm about to sit down and vlog that book. And so I thought instead I would show you what I've gotten recently. Maybe one for you to guide me in a direction of where to start because now I'm overwhelmed by the stack that I have acquired. Two, to talk about some things that I've already read and loved. And three, I guess just to talk about what I want to read over the next few weeks in particular. I have some January arcs that are due, one of which is sitting right here, so I need to start that soon. But I don't know, I think because I've been doing such rigid TBR reading for the last 6 weeks, I am ready to just let my brain go. That sounds good, let's read it. So let's get into it. So I won't lie, I bought this for the cover. That not entirely by itself. Let's say I came for the cover, I stayed for the synopsis. It honestly reminds me of the way Penguin Random House does their arc covers. The white border. I love that look. I don't know. It, to me, makes the rest of the cover pop. In this case, these are both really brightly colored, so obviously that happens. But even with this one, it really drew me in to the center of the work because of the white border. But this is about, I think it's a love story. It says, it's hard to remember that I was once that girl, lying in the sand in my red swimsuit and swimming late into the day. Shark bait, he called me. It's in the water when she first sees him, a local man almost 20 years her senior. Adrift in the summer after finishing college, a young woman is on holiday with her mother in an isolated Australian coastal town. Finding herself pulled to Jude, the man in the water, she begins losing herself in the simple, seductive rhythms of his everyday life. As their relationship deepens, life at Sailor's Beach offers her the stability she has been craving as the daughter of two drifters, a loving but impulsive mother and an itinerant father. But the arrival of Maeve, a friend from Jude's past, threatens to rock their fragile newfound intimacy. And when she witnesses something she doesn't fully understand, she finds herself questioning everything about Jude, about herself, about the life she has, and the one she wants. A magnetic and unforgettable story of desire and its complexities, and a powerful reckoning with memory, loss, and longing. And this is Madeline Lucas's debut novel. And there's been a ton of praise for this. I take it back that it's a love story. I think it's a complicated relationship story, amongst other things. I really enjoy books like this that are a slice of someone's life where something complicated happens and we get to go on this exploration with them, not only of the plot, but often of the character themselves. I'm not going to read the synopses of all of these because there's a good handful of these books that are really popular, and if you don't know what they're about already, you can very easily find them. But for the rest, I will be. So on a random trip to Half Price Books, I found the Atlas 6 in excellent condition, so I grabbed it because I have wanted to read this for quite some time, and I think I'm ready to enter my, because winter feels like it's kind of here in Texas, weirdly enough. It has been basically in the mid 40s to low 50s for a couple of weeks now, and this is the steadiest weather we've had other than just blazing heat from summer. So I'm getting into that. It's time for fantasy, it's time for dark academia, it's time for litfic time, and yeah, we're gonna get into this. Okay, these next few books I got from a book outlet order. It was a rather large book outlet order. In fact, they sent me a full big old box and these stuck together. So we have Biography of X by Catherine Lacey. This has been making its rounds on Book Talk, which for some people gives them hesitance. I like seeing stories like this make the rounds because I think it reminds people that the internet is not a monolith, especially the book community. We are not all reading the same things. And even if we are, it's fine to go through and be fun and enjoy them. But I think sometimes there's this misunderstanding of the book side of the internet that it's all romantasy or it's all cozy mystery or it's all romance, and it's not. It's just not. People are reading all sorts of things. So I have wanted to read Catherine Lacey's work. I believe she also wrote Pew, which I wanted to get, but they did not have in stock. But they did have this, so I grabbed it. So this is when X, an iconoclastic artist, writer, and polarizing shapeshifter, falls dead in her office, her widow, CM, hurls herself into writing a biography of the woman she deified. On a quest to find out where X was born, CM instead opens a Pandora's box of secrets, betrayals, and destruction. All the while, she immerses herself in the history of the Southern Territory, a fascist theocracy that split from the rest of the country after World War II, which finally, in the present day, is being forced into an uneasy reunification. A masterfully constructed literary adventure, complete with original images assembled by X's widow. Biography of X follows CM as she traces X's peripatetic? That's a word I'm going to have to look up later. Peripatetic trajectory over decades and through her collaborations and feuds with everyone from Bowie and Waits to Sontag and Acker. At last, when she finally understands the scope of X's defining artistic project, CM realizes her wife's deception was far crueler than she imagined. Pulsing with suspense and intellect, while blending nonfiction and fiction, Biography of X is a roaring epic that plumbs the depths of grief, art, and love. Well, now I need to look this person up because I did not know that this had nonfiction elements to it, and I'm interested to see who this person is, what their story is about, because I've never heard of that. This one was a book that the cover grabbed me, and then the synopsis put its hooks into me, and I was like, well, you're mine now. This is called A Crooked Tree, and it's by Una Mannion. Look at it's beautiful. It says, it's the early 1980s and 15-year-old Libby is obsessed with the field guide of the trees of North America, a gift her Irish immigrant father gave her before he died. She finds solace in The Kingdom, a stand of red oak and thick mountain laurel near her home in suburban Pennsylvania, where she can escape from her large and unruly family and share menthol cigarettes and lukewarm beers with her best friend. One long summer night while driving home, Libby's mother, exhausted and overwhelmed with the fighting in the backseat, pulls over and orders Libby's sister Ellen to walk home. What no one in this family knows as they drive off, leaving a 12-year-old girl on the side of the road 5 miles from home with darkness closing in, is what will happen next. So I assume her sister goes missing and then things happen from there. Okay, this next book is a Heather McLary recommendation special. I saw her waxing poetic about All Roads Lead Here when she did that vlog where she went on like a camping trip with somebody. And she's like, this is the perfect book to read of that. And I have been in the mood for slow burn. And Mariana Zapata does that. This would be my first Mariana Zapata, which feels blasphemous, but I'm excited. And then the next book, which I kind of feel like I can't talk about without going into the publisher sent one. So you know what? I'm going to put these to the side. And then when we get to the publisher section, I will talk about it because it's a series and the publisher sent me a couple of copies and then I bought the rest. So anyway, these next 2 books I actually got from a Pango order I placed from my friend Elena. Her Instagram is shelf.help and I love her. She's so great. She's in the process of moving. So I will link in my description her Pango store. She's been putting her books on sale for like $2. So go snag them. So I picked up Dyscalculia, which is a nonfiction book about a woman with dyscalculia, which is a disorder that makes it really difficult to learn math. I don't know how to pronounce her first name. I think it's Camonine. It's Camonghne. So Camonine Felix goes through a monumental breakup, culminating in a hospital stay. Everything from her early childhood trauma and mental health to her relationship with mathematics shows up in the tapestry of her healing. In this exquisite and raw reflection, Felix repossesses herself through the exploration of history she'd left behind, using her childhood dyscalculia, a disorder that makes it difficult to learn math, as a metaphor for the consequences of her miscalculations in love. Through reckoning with this breakup and other adult gambles in intimacy, Felix asks the questions, who gets to assert their right to pain? So Dyscalculia negotiates the misalignment of perception and reality, love and harm, and the politics of heartbreak, both romantic and familial. This sounds like it's going to be a well-written trauma dump, and I'm here for it. It's also incredibly tiny. So, like, this is a standard size. Well, maybe not a standard size. This is almost a standard size, like, hardback. It's probably more of the size of a trade paperback. So, like, this next to it is real tiny. It's so cute. And it's also only 200 pages, 215, and that's of tiny pages, which means it's probably closer to like 175. So I'm excited about that. And then we have Harry Sylvester Bird by Chinelo Okparanta. I accidentally put an extra N in there. Apologies to this person. I don't know what this is about. I just grabbed it because it looked great. And I trust Elena's book choices. It says, Harry Sylvester Bird, curious and eccentric, is 14 years old when he and his family embark on a life-changing journey to Tanzania. Life-changing for Harry anyway. After returning home to life as usual in rural Edward, Pennsylvania, Harry grows up ever more resentful of his white conservative parents for their racist, xenophobic, and unsophisticated ways. In Edward and in surrounding towns, Harry witnesses racial profiling and encounters graffitied swastikas and white power signs. For Harry, it seems almost everyone around him represents what's wrong with the country. He can't wait to leave for college. When the time finally comes, he heads straight to New York City, where he feels he can live as his true inner self at last. In the city, Harry meets and falls in love with Miriam, a young Nigerian woman from his rhetoric and composition class. As their relationship evolves, Harry attempts to become more authentically himself by embracing Black identity in unexpected and sometimes amusing ways. For study abroad, Harry winds up back on the African continent, this time in Ghana, and this time with Miriam rather than with his parents. Upon his return from this trip, Harry is forced to confront his whiteness as he never has before, if he can. Inspired by current conversations about identity and race and its limits, Harry Sylvester Bird is a funny and brilliant, provocative, and up-to-the-minute novel about one unique white man's education and miseducation in contemporary America. Daring, original, and humorously unflinching, it speaks cleverly to all the most pressing tensions and anxieties of our time. This sounds great. Also, 2 for 2 on Bookset in Pennsylvania. I like sometimes reading in a theme. So these next few books I bought at Barnes & Noble and at Amazon for my Goodreads reading blogs. Funnily enough, none of these 4 made it into those because I had like a little wheel pick because my TBR was huge. I'm not counting the books I also bought an ebook because that would require me looking back through my Kindle purchasing history, and honestly, it's scary in there. There's so many receipts. There's a book also not physically here because I lent it to my grandpa because that one I did read and I absolutely loved, and that was First Lie Wins by Ashley Elson. Incredible. So I have Martyr by Kaveh Akbar, which this I feel like, I don't know if I'll get to it before the end of the year, but I could definitely see this being like I read this by the first quarter of next year, just because of all the books that I had left on the stack, this and the next one were the ones I was most looking forward to that I had in physical copies. This has been on everyone's end of year list, and I'm excited to finally read it. Same thing with The Wedding People. This was another one that I was very excited to get into, and I still am, and honestly, this might be one that I pick up sooner rather than later, just because this story keeps calling out to me when I sit and I think, like, what do I want to read? There are aspects of the synopsis that really want to like draw me in. This woman goes to a island to like an inn, and she's gonna stay there for the weekend. She's been dealing with, I think, a breakup, and what she doesn't realize when she gets there is that the hotel has been rented out for her wedding, and I guess they accidentally let her book thinking she was a part of the wedding party, but she's not. And so now she's surrounded by these wedding people, and she strikes up a relationship with the bride. And I think that through that, it helps her kind of deal with some of her inner turmoil. Okay, then we have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. This is not something I would typically read, but I have been trying to get more into horror recently. Generally speaking, it's because I have enjoyed some of the few things I have read, but I've learned that I enjoy a specific brand of horror so far, and I'm trying to figure out if that stretches out a little more or if it is going to continue to be kind of insular. And then we have The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. This is about a young woman who realizes, well, I guess she always knew, but basically her town has a shadow self across the way. And when people die, they go to the like duplicate version of their town, and your loved ones can go visit you, but there are really specific rules about how that works. And I think she sneaks over there, maybe? I can't remember. I just know that it was like the setup was wild, and I'm interested in reading this. That's another one where I don't know if I'll read it before the end of the year, but I think I'll definitely read it within the first quarter of next year if I don't get to it before the end of 2024. So those are all the books that I purchased myself let's get into the ones that publisher so kindly sent me to read and review. Okay, this first one is split. 2 of the books the publisher did send me to read and review, and then 2 of them I bought on my own. This is the Artifacts of Urano series by Nisha J. Tooley. The first book in the series is called Trial of the Sun Queen, which I have read and loved. I read it for that Goodreads choice vlog that I was doing and had the best time. And I want to go continue on with the series. In fact, I had to stop myself from starting book 2 because I was like, man, I need to wait. Mostly because I had other things to read in that vlog, and this was not a part of that. And I just kind of felt like if I continued on to book 2, then I would just finish the whole series. And I just didn't have the time at that moment. But I think I'm going to let myself. I'm very excited. So thank you to Forever Publishing for providing me with books 1 and book 4. I can't wait to finish the rest of the series. It's so, so good. If you like your romantasy to be a little more political intrigue, a little more like there's mystery to it, there's other elements than just the romance that are driving things forward, ooh, there we go. Sorry, I'm getting like blown out by the sun here. Then I can't recommend this enough. It is such a good representation of a complex storyline while still making it really accessible to you as the reader to join in. So I was mentioning how I have January arcs that I need to like hurry up and get into, and this is one of them. Isaac's Song by Daniel Black. I absolutely loved his book Don't Cry for Me, and that was from a father's perspective of him trying to reconcile with his son after not dealing with the fact that his son was gay very well, and him kind of apologizing to him in his way. It was a very one-sided story. We really only got to see his dad's point of view, but this is following Isaac, his son, and it's going to be set in, I believe, late 80s Chicago. Yeah. I can't wait. So that means we do see the AIDS crisis. Yeah, it says Isaac is at a crossroads in his young life. Growing up in Missouri, the son of a caustic, hard-driving father, he was conditioned to suppress his artistic pursuits and physical desires, notions that didn't align with the traditional view of masculinity. But now in late 80s Chicago, Isaac has finally carved out a life of his own. He's sensitive and tender-hearted and has built up the courage to seek out a community. Yet, just as he begins to embrace who he is, 2 social catalysts, the AIDS crisis and Rodney King's attack, collectively extinguish his hard-earned joy. At a therapist's encouragement, Isaac begins to write his story. In the process, he taps into a creative energy that will send him on a journey back to his family, his ancestral home in Arkansas, and all the inherited trauma of the nation's dark past. But a surprise discovery will either unlock the truth he's been seeking or threaten to derail the life he's fought so hard to claim. I do recommend reading Don't Cry for Me, not necessarily first, but in general. This one comes out January 28th, so you definitely have time to read that before this one comes out. His father's perspective, I think, like knowing that might be important here. In seeing, I think his dad for a lot of it, when what he didn't understand, he also was just trying to protect him. And as we know, your intent does not alleviate you from consequences of your actions, but I don't know, interesting point of view. So a couple other early 2025 arcs. Okay, this one is, they're both actually February picks. When does this one come out? I wish they would put this. This one I know is February 4th. It's The Black Orb. I got this from Mira Books, who is a part of Harlequin Trade Press. This reminded me of a Doctor Who episode, like the synopsis of it, and I was like, oh, I need to read this because I love that episode. So basically, one night in downtown Seoul, this man's outside smoking, and a huge black orb appears out of nowhere, and it sucks his neighbor inside. And he manages to get away, but the terrifying fear that it can move through walls, and so he can't hide for long. But the orb begins consuming every person caught in its path, and no one knows how to stop it. It says, impervious to bullets and tanks, the orb splits and multiplies, chasing the hapless residents of Seoul out into the country and sparking a global crisis with widespread violence and looting. This sounds like a post-apocalyptic crazy good time. Okay, next up is Famous Last Words by Jillian McAllister. This one comes out February 25th. Thank you to William Morrow Publishing for sending this to me. I am very excited. This sounds like a chaotic story. So this woman is a literary agent and she's been on maternity leave. It's her first day back at work. She's meant to drop her daughter off at daycare. And when she gets up, her husband isn't there, which is kind of weird, but she doesn't really think too much of it. But as she goes on about her day, she is notified by the police that there's a hostage situation in London. But he's not one of the hostages. Her husband is the gunman. And she has no idea why. So we go on this journey with her to figure out what the hell is happening. I can't wait to read this. Okay, then we have 2 books sent to me by Forever Publishing, my besties. I love them. We have I'll Have What He's Having by Adib Khorram and The Fabric of Our Souls by K.M. Morinova. This one was a KU title that was picked up by Forever and has now since been traditionally published. This is a dark romance where a woman, basically she wants to die. And she meets a man who doesn't. And they kind of have this tension, like back and forth situation that happens because I think at one point he's like her therapist or something, but then they both end up in this like sanctum for their issues. And it sounds like it would be dark and twisty, but also kind of romantic. I don't know. We'll see. And then with I'll Have What He's Having, it says, when it comes to love, substitute teacher Farzan Alavi is a disaster. Heartbroken again, he's drowning in sorrows at Kansas City's newest wine bar. Only instead of being crowded between strangers, he's escorted to a VIP table for one. There, the hot sommelier does more than treat him to the meal of his life. The way he flirts with Farzan ignites instant sparks. There's just one problem. David Curtis thinks Farzan is Kansas City's most influential food critic. The truth comes out only after the two spend an unforgettable night together. Good news, both think the mix-up is hilarious. Bad news, David is studying to become a master sommelier and has no interest in a relationship. Neither expect their paths to cross again until Farzan inherits his family's bistro. The two agree to a friends without benefits exchange. David will share his industry knowledge and Farzan will help David study. Only business turns to pleasure when they can't ignore the attraction still sizzling between them. But with David set on moving cross country after his test, Farzan committed to his family restaurant. How can their relationship last? I love a serendipitous moment. I do. So I'm excited to read this. Thank you, Forever, for sending this to me. This one's out now, and so is The Fabric of Our Souls. Okay, these next 2 books were sent to me from Penguin Random House from their new imprint Zeitgeist, which is mostly nonfiction work. So we have The Attention Fix, How to Focus in a World That Wants to Distract You, and The Happiness Cure, Why You're Not Built for Constant Happiness and How to Enjoy the Journey. These are 2 things that I struggle with greatly. So when they emailed me and were like, hi, we have a new imprint. Are you interested in the contents of that imprint? And I saw these. I said, please help me. Help me. My brain. It needs you. So we're going to check these out and hopefully they help. Maybe there are some useful tips. I appreciate that they are both really short, less than 200 pages, maybe just at. So, I don't know. I also really like the way that it's laid out. There are different, like, principles in here. Little short stories to, I don't know, have anecdotes with. But then there's also, like, where did I just see that? Like, key things are, like, bracketed almost. Here, like, here's a thing. Like, this is, like, how to deal with anxiety. I don't know if you can see that. But I really like the way that that is broken up. So hopefully these will help me. I don't know if these are out yet. They don't have dates on them like their arcs, so I assume that they are out. Okay, and then the last 2 things. This was an arc, but I didn't realize that it was an October title. I didn't get this until the end of October, beginning of November. This came out on October 15th. It's I Do, I Think, by Allison Raskin, and it's conversations about modern marriage. It says marriage rates may be on the decline, but that doesn't mean marriage is disappearing from society. In fact, as modern relationship norms and structures continue to evolve, the public discourse about marriage has never been louder or more conflicted. Divorce rates, the appeal of just cohabitating, seemingly infinite options for future partners, the patriarchal roots of marriage and gender roles, and economic uncertainty are just a few factors that leave a new generation of single and dating adults wondering, what does marriage even look like now? Why do people still do it? And most importantly, is it for me? So with conversational wit and compassion, bestselling author Allison Raskin draws on new research, interviews with licensed experts, and the stories of real-life couples to tease apart the many layers of today's marriage conversation and to make the leap of faith a little less scary for Gen Z and millennial adults like herself. What emerges is a thoughtful investigation in our cultural assumptions about commitment, compatibility, divorce, meaningful partnership, the future of marriage, and what it means to join your bank accounts. When they reached out to me about this, I was like, I am a single Pringle who hasn't dated anybody in quite some time and honestly doesn't really have the interest. But also as a woman of a particular age, I get asked all the time, like, are you dating? Are you seeing anybody? Like, what do you think about marriage? And I'm like, I have a lot of thoughts and I don't know if you want to sit through them. And so I think it would be kind of nice to read something like this that is thought-provoking, that helps me settle into why I feel the way I feel, or maybe challenge that a little bit, and to help me more accurately describe the things that go on in my head when we discuss things like marriage. So I think this would be a good time. And it's also short. I believe this one also has an audiobook. This is less than 250 pages, which means the audio is maybe 5.5, 6 hours. So get into it. Okay, last but not least, also from Forever Publishing, this came out on November 12th, and I am just late. It's Love and Bloom by Lucy Eden. This follows Emma? Yes. Emma and Dan. So Emma has just inherited a family farm after I believe her grandparents passed away, and Dan has been helping run it for quite some time. And what we discover is that this town that they live in is kind of surrounded and functioning entirely off of the cannabis industry, and that Lucy has actually inherited a weed farm. And these two don't seem to really like each other at first. I think in theory it's because Dan's protective of the operation they have going on and like what it means to the town. And Lucy's coming in a state of grief and also dealing with this huge change in her life because she's had to like relocate. And I think this farm is kind of like her last ditch effort at success and adulthood and all those things. So I expect chaos. I expect forced proximity. I expect it to be steamy, and I expect lots of weed puns. So those are all of the books that I have acquired in the last however long. If you have read any of the things that I mentioned that were already out or that I had just kind of purchased on my own and you think I would love them, tell me where to start. Of the arcs you've heard of, what piques your interest? What do you think I should report back on first to let you know whether or not it's worth you pre-ordering? And with that being said, thank you so much for joining me for another video. I will see you guys again very soon.